Here are 42 brutal truths that I wish I knew in my 20s. At 25, I made my first $1 million in profit, and by 28, I had over a $10 million liquid net worth. I also got my pilot's license, bought a plane, fell in love, moved into my dream house, bought a boat, and live a life that I never thought was possible. However, these are just the highlights. I made a lot of mistakes and left a lot of money on the table along the way. So to prevent me from making the same mistakes again and again, I created 42 principles that I now live my life by. And today, I'm going to share them with you. Number one, the quality of my life is determined by the quality of my decisions. Everything you have or don't have, everything you are or wish you were, is because of the decisions that you've made in the past 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and 5 years. You have nobody to blame but yourself. And while that's scary, that also means if you start focusing on the decisions you're making today, your life in the future can be incredible. Number two, the quality of my decisions is determined by my energy. I can chalk up almost every single thing in my life that I regret to making a decision when I had low energy, when I was frustrated, when I was emotionally unavailable, when I was tired, and I just snapped back. I said something, I agreed to something, or I disagreed to something else just because I wanted to get it over with. And little did I know that if I came at that problem with a full amount of energy, fresh, and bright-eyed, then I probably wouldn't have made that mistake, which is why now I don't really make any big decisions unless I've had a good quality night's sleep. Which brings us to number three, which is my energy is determined by my priorities, my sleep, and the food I eat. You see, a lot of people waste their decision-making power on such trivial choices every single day. What clothes should they wear? Where should they work? What should they work on? What food should they eat? Decisions that literally are going to happen every single day. And then when the big decisions come around, they're so fatigued and so tired that they make a mistake or they just procrastinate it altogether. In addition to it, it's not just about the priorities though, it's also about your physical energy, what you have in your body. And what I notice is that the amount of sleep that I get and the quality of that sleep has a big determination on my energy and, more importantly, the food that I eat. For the longest time, I just thought I was eating healthy. I tried to get organic food or natural food, but it wasn't until I made a conscious effort to pay attention to what food made me actually feel the best and look the best. And then I got an allergy test, I had a blood test, I had a stool test. I went and saw these doctors and I figured out a lot of the foods that I was eating day to day, a lot of the foods that people tell me or were telling me were really healthy were actually really bad for me. And that's just because of who I am and how my body works. And so once I started cutting out all of those things and just focused on foods that my body loves, my energy levels have soared through the roof. Number four, in order to test the quality of my decisions, I ask myself, does this choice enlarge me or diminish me? A lot of mistakes that people make in their 20s is they make decisions based on what makes them feel the happiest. And the problem with that is that in our short-term dopamine-filled society, whatever makes you feel the happiest is most likely a short-term benefit for a long-term loss. So, for example, you watching a movie in the middle of the day, eating junk food, not going to the gym, scrolling on social media, watching porn, any of this stuff here is going to, in the short term, make you feel really, really great, but in the long term, make you feel terrible. But if you looked at those same questions through the lens of, do these choices enlarge me or diminish me, it makes it very obvious that scrolling on social media, eating unhealthy food, not going to the gym, those all diminish you. So instead of trying to use your happiness as this internal compass or guide, ask yourself, does this choice enlarge me or diminish me? Number five, the greatest joy in life comes from progress. Look, I can say that I have bought a lot of toys. I have planes, I have boats, I have cars, I have motorcycles, I live in this beautiful house, but I can tell you personally that none of those things really bring me joy. When I use those things, maybe with other people, like I talk about later, they can help enable joy or help create an environment where I find happiness. But in my own personal experience, I am the happiest when I'm working towards something, when I'm being challenged, when I'm doing something new, which is why a lot of people put money or objects or material things as the end results, and then they get there and they realize that that thing brings them absolutely no happiness. And a lot of people will then go into some kind of depressive state, or at least that's what's happened to me, right? I made $1 million in over a day, and my goal was to get to $1 million a month for so long, and it finally happened, and nothing happened. I realized that my life literally didn't change one iota, because by the time you're making $1 million in a day or $1 million in a month, $1 million doesn't change your life whatsoever. And so instead, I focused on creating challenges or tasks for me to do that I actually love doing, that give me joy to do, and I can work towards specific goals. And when I do that, that brings me more joy and happiness than any of these material things ever have. Number 6, pain plus reflection equals progress. We've all heard the saying, no pain, no gain. And I feel like some people are like masochists and they just want to put themselves through repeated pain over and over and over again. They're just like bulls or something like that. But they don't realize that the other part of that equation is reflection. You need to carve out time every single week to reflect on anything that caused you pain in the last week and identify, was it good pain? Was it bad pain? Was it enlarging you? Was it diminishing you? And then continuously optimize your life based on this feedback loop. So I reflect weekly. I have time that I write in my journal. I look at my calendar. I look at my tasks. I look at anything I did in my personal life and I try to figure out, okay, are these things that I want to repeat? Is this pain that's bringing me towards progress? Or is this pain from regrets, from mistakes that I'm making over and over again? And then I just adjust my life accordingly. Number 7, what you say to yourself matters. This is something that I struggle with for a very long time. I used to have these goals of like, I want to make $1 million a month. I want to make $10 million in a year. I want to make all these things. But what I didn't realize was that I was speaking into existence the very fact that I didn't have those things. And we're not going to get into the whole woo-woo and like, universe and vibrational frequency and stuff like that. But I was realizing that I was focused so much on the lack of things that I just attracted more lack into my life. In addition to that, I realized that I would feel maybe angry or aggressive or upset if I had watched like a show about action or a war movie, or I would feel certain types of way if I like was scrolling on social media too long. It would affect that one, minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes I was on my phone would affect then how I interacted with the real world around me. And so what I realized was that this music that I listen to at my gym, the reels that I look at on Instagram, the videos I watch on YouTube, the movies that I look at, the people I surround myself with, all of this is feeding my brain. My brain doesn't know what's real, what's not real, what's in the moment, what's not in the moment, right? It just processes all this data. And so once I realized that, I started to be way, way more methodical about what I let enter my mind. I mean, if you even look at my Instagram account, I only follow, I think, a dozen people on there because I'm just so cautious of what somebody else can enter into my mind, what someone can put on me. And there's a great book out there called What to Say When You're Talking to Yourself, but a lot of people have negative self-talk when they're talking to themselves every single day. Oh, you should have worked harder, you should have made this quota, you should have done this, and they're just beating themselves up over and over and over again. And little do they know that they're putting themselves in a state where they can almost never crawl out of it. And instead, you should be focused on abundance, focus on already having the things that you quote unquote wish that you had, and know that anything that enters your brain, anything consciously or subconsciously that enters your brain matters. Number 8, simplicity is the key to any real progress. This is actually a value in our company, so I'm going to read it directly off of our company's wiki. So in a quest to get and be more, it's very easy to add more, but what I have learned is that every single time it's better to have and do less in order to achieve more. Now, I know that's kind of a word jumble there. It's purposely like that. But the point being that, if you want to achieve these amazing, great things, if you want to live this crazy, amazing life, you can't be encumbered. You can't just have this business and that business and this offer and this relationship and that relationship and all of these toys and gadgets and gizmos, and these all just start weighing you down more and more and more. And you think, I need more in order to get more. But the people that I know that are operating at a level that I want to operate at, their life is incredibly simple. They have the time freedom, they have location freedom, they have financial freedom, and they're not encumbered by a lot of what modern day society tells us is what we need. And so I always try to focus whenever I'm looking at something. I always ask myself, if this were simple, what would this look like? And that's typically the route that I go. Number 9, constraints are what make life enjoyable. Almost anyone can do anything, right? We all have access to the same information, and say for, you trying to be like a professional basketball player or a football player, you could pretty much do anything you set your mind to. And so what you want to do is you want to set constraints, because that's what makes life enjoyable. It makes life more fun. You want to set the rules of how you're going to live life. So for example, if I say I wanted to make $1 million, I could do it, right? And you could do it. You're watching this video right now, but are you going to do it while sacrificing your relationship? Do it by sacrificing your health, do it by sacrificing your integrity, right? You could definitely do it, right? You could work 80 hours a day, you could scam people, you could do all this stuff. Or you could say, I want to make $1 million, but I want to do it only working 15 hours a week, and I want to do it helping other people. And you list all these things out, and then it becomes like, okay, well, this is more difficult to do, but it's more fun that way. So for example, for me, I end work every single day at 4 o'clock. That's because I go to the gym from 4 to 6. And so no matter what, whether I had a good day, day, a bad day, a productive day, an unproductive day, I end work by 4 o'clock. And so when you're running a company at my size, that means that you have to be super specific with how you're spending your time. And so I can't be spending my time on frivolous activities or activities I could delegate to somebody else. I need to be spending the time only on the things that give me energy and have the biggest impact on my bottom line. And so you have to figure out and ask yourself, okay, if I'm going to do this goal, if I'm going to hit this goal here, what constraints am I going to make around it to make it more fun and to also make it more aligned with what I want my life to look like? Number 10, deal with reality. Don't hide from it. I tell myself this every single day because it's very easy, especially as you make more money, you become more successful, you can kind of like create this bubble around you to avoid facing things head on that have outcomes that you don't enjoy, right? That's something that you didn't want to happen or you don't want to happen. And it's happened anyway. And so it's very easy for me to maybe not check that email, not respond to that client message, not, for example, if you're watching this right now and you're not proud of your financial situation, you could just not look at your bank account. I used to do that when I didn't have any money. I would never look at my bank account because I was embarrassed of what it was. It would make me sad to look at my bank account. But then I realized that all those choices were diminishing me. And in the end, you're going to have to face it. You're going to have to face the music. And so you might as well face it head on. You might as well practice radical transparency and just look at it straight in the eyes. And one of the things that I wrote down that I read every single day is, if the decision is reversible, make it fast to gain the most potential benefit. So most of the decisions that you need to make, the thing that you're afraid to make a decision on, a lot of them are reversible. It's very rare you'll ever find a totally irreversible decisions. And so you delaying making that decision almost always has a negative consequence on you, right? So if you were trying to, I don't know, let's say take a job. You were thinking about taking this job and you're like, oh, well, I want to start my business, but I want to start this job and I could maybe make the money on this, but I could maybe do this business thing over here. Well, the whole time you're like, oh, should I take this or not? You're not making any money. You're not challenging yourself. You're not growing. And so if you got the job and you hated it, you could just leave. You could just quit. You go do something else, or you could try to start your business on the side. So that's a totally reversible decision. But I won't say most of you, but a lot of people in their 20s, they will just delay and delay and delay and delay until they're like forced into making a decision. Now, the other thing I wrote is that if it's irreversible, take your time to protect your downside. So the other part of this is that if you're about to make a decision, for example, who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. I think a lot of people just say, oh, I found this person, they're great, let me marry them within 6 or 12 months. When in reality, if you're in your 20s, you barely know who you are when you're 22, 24, 25 years old. How the heck can you expect to know another person well enough to say, I want to spend the rest of my life with them, right? And some people could say, well, divorce is reversible, so you can do it that way. But, that's not the way I look at marriage. I wouldn't want to come into it thinking, oh, well, this is a reversible decision. I would see who I'm going to marry as an irreversible decision because I would want that person to be with me for the rest of my life. Otherwise, why am I getting married in the first place? So when you're coming at something that is irreversible, then you want to make sure that you're taking your time so you can protect your downside from making a mistake that could cost you a lot later on. Number 11, time is our most valuable asset, so we must protect it. I told myself this for years, and it's because I learned at a very early age that time is limited. It's the only thing that we can't get more of. You can always make more money, but you can never get back your time. So when we go back to that thing about constraints making your life more enjoyable, I strongly recommend that you don't just sacrifice your entire life. Don't give away every single second that you have to the act of, let's say, making money. I know everyone's saying hustle and grind and 80-hour work weeks, but I'm telling you, I sit in rooms with people who have made hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars, and they all tell me the exact same thing. They say, slow down. Like, don't go so fast. Enjoy the process, because no matter what, you're going to, let's say you have this huge exit for $600 million, $800 million. What are you going to do right after that? You're going to go right back into working again because the joy in life comes from progress. So you're not going to sit around and retire at 33 years old and sail around the world. That's going to be boring as hell. So instead, you're going to still want to work. And so if you're just like sacrificing all this stuff in this short time period, you're sacrificing all this time to get to this end outcome, and then you get there and you realize it's not what you want, you're just going to go back to doing exactly what you're doing before. Why not extend it over a longer time horizon? Don't worry so much about, I have to make this money by this date and this age, and instead just do what you love, and eventually that money is going to flow with you, and spend your time doing the things that you want to spend your time doing, right? Because you'll never, ever get that time back. I know this is cheesy. I know you guys all know this, but it's so funny, and I have to even remind myself every single day. That's why I don't really do anything that I don't enjoy, that doesn't enlarge me. I'd rather pay to avoid that thing. That's why I have a house manager. That's why I have an executive assistant. That's why I have a whole company of people, right? That's why I pay for Ubers, or I'll pay for Uber Courier, for example, to go and get something across town and bring it over to me versus me getting in the car, driving over there, coming back. That's why I pay for my barber to come to here. That's why I pay for my manicure and pedicure person to come to my house, right? It's all of these things because I want to protect my time. So I'm at the point where I just want to pay to get as much time as I can, and then I want to be really, really selective with how I deploy and allocate that time. Number 12, I will never do anything that can be delegated to someone else. Now, these are principles, and so they seem somewhat extreme, and obviously I do things that can be delegated to someone else. So for example, you could delegate everything to somebody else, but I definitely go way above and beyond what most people would say, oh, no, let me just do that, right? All the things I just told you about a second ago, having my barber come to my house, hiring a house manager, I have somebody literally charge my electric toothbrush for me, right? And so I know people are gonna go in the comments and be like, that's insane. This guy doesn't realize. I get the, oh, it's electric. Doesn't he know that like you just have to charge it and put it on the thing? But I don't even want to think about it. It's not even in my brain. Like I don't think about all the things that most of you do on a personal like level, like your scheduling, taking out the trash, picking up mail, all these little things. And I know I sound insane. I'm just telling you that if this is what you want, if you really want to protect your time, it's really your most valuable thing, then why would you not delegate it out all the things that are sucking up your time that have to get done that you just don't enjoy doing? And of course, I've done this over the past 5 years. It wasn't like one day I woke up and was like, I'll never do anything ever again. But over time, you should be starting to delegate things out that you don't love doing so that you can focus your time and energy on the things that you absolutely love doing. So for example, today, the only thing on my calendar is shooting this YouTube video. That's all I have to do today, right? So that allows me to then fill the time up with things that I wouldn't want to delegate to someone else. Like let's say playing paddle with my friends or spending quality time with my girlfriend, because I really love those things. But then everything else outside of that, I'm going to pay somebody else to do it for me. Number 13, every time you do something, it could be for the very last time, so treat it accordingly. Once passed, your remaining supply of these moments will be one smaller than before. This is a nice reminder because even as systemized and as delegated as my life is, I still do stuff all the time that I don't want to do, right? Life happens. Like stuff happens. Just yesterday, I had to do this like errands back and forth because something happened in my life. And I remember thinking in my head, like, oh my God, this is such a waste of my time. I wish I could hire somebody else to do this for me. And then I just realized like, wow, I could literally die on the way home from this ride. Or I could be riding on the way home, but something insane could happen. I could get in a car accident and never feel my legs again. And I could never drive a car after that, right? So it reminds me that in every moment, this could be the last time you ever do that one thing. It's the last time you ever speak to your parents, last time you ever speak to your kids, last time you ever speak to your significant other. That's why my girlfriend and I never go to bed as upset at each other, right? Because you don't know, is the other person going to wake up in the morning? And so you have to keep that in mind at the forefront of your mind for everything that you do. And that way, even if you're doing things that you don't enjoy, you might as well think of it like, well, I could literally not be around tomorrow, so at least I'm doing something versus being dead. Number 14, systemize and if possible, eliminate or automate decision making. You want to make it as easy as possible to do things that are good or things that enlarge you, and make it as hard as possible to do things that are bad or diminish you. The truth is that most negative consequences come not because we don't know something is bad for us, but because we rely on ourselves, very unreliable people, to make this decision frequently. So for example, at the end of every single day, after you've had a long work day, you go downstairs and you want to have dinner. Well, you have Uber Eats on your phone, or you have this like a lean ground beef that you could cook and make a meal of. And so every day you're forced with making a decision, and you're like, oh, well, I could cook this all up, but then I got to cook it, I got to clean it, or I'll just Uber Eats and I'll have Chipotle at my door in 10 minutes, right? And so you're relying on yourself to make that decision every single day, and we're not very reliable people. And as I talked about earlier, your energy matters. And so you're making this decision at the end of the day, and that's also when you get into junk food and ice cream and all that stuff because you just don't have any willpower left. So instead you want to automate or eliminate that decision making. So for example, for me, I have 14 out of the 16 meals that I eat every single week are delivered to my door. And so I don't even have to think about it. I'm not even considering it. I go downstairs, the meal's already cooked, I throw it in my air fryer, and it's ready in 3 minutes. It's way faster than even if I try to Uber Eats it, right? And I also eliminate decision making by we don't keep anything unhealthy in the house, because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. And if there is a bag of Doritos in my house, if there is ice cream in my house, if there is chocolate in my house, I will destroy that thing. I will just literally, it will be gone in a matter of seconds. I will inhale the entire carton of ice cream. I'm talking about the big ones too, right? And so I just eliminate it altogether. I keep it outside of my house so I never have to think about it. I never have to make the decision, rely on me to make the decision, because I know that's not going to end well. Number 15, identify the disease, not just the symptoms. You can immediately cut off or alleviate a symptom, but it will always come back unless you find and eradicate the disease. For example, your sales team underperforming is a symptom. Having no quality control over what leads are qualified and can make it on the calendar is the disease. Watching too much TV is a symptom. Not having a meaningful challenge is a disease. A great example is, as I talked about in the intro, I just moved into my dream house in Miami Beach. And at my old condo, my girlfriend and I used to watch TV almost every single day, right? I would end the day that way and we would watch like a show. It was kind of how we spent time together. And that was because I had systemized and automated my life so much that I had so much free time on my hands. And since we moved into the new house, we've been so busy because we're in this new neighborhood. We're meeting our neighbors. We're hosting dinner parties. We're going out and playing sports. It's even just like the TV's in a different room, all these different things that we haven't watched. We've been here for 3.5 weeks, almost 4 weeks now. We haven't watched one episode or one show, any TV whatsoever. And that's because we're so busy at this point doing other things. And so instead of being like, oh, let me hide the remote. Oh, let me schedule my TV time from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. That's trying to cut off the symptom. But instead I went to the disease, which was like, well, I'm just not doing enough things that challenge me outside of work. And that's why when I have free time, I just watch TV. So once I did that, now I no longer watch TV. Number 16, weigh second and third order consequences. Most of the things that hurt me are after a pleasant first order consequences. So for example, when I watch TV, I feel good immediately. If I were to do drugs, I feel good immediately. If I drink alcohol, if I have something really sugary, all of that I do immediately. These are typically what people desire. When you're like, oh, I really am craving ice cream. I'm really craving, a me day and watching TV. These are all what's known as first order consequences. And most things that are bad for you have really great first order consequences. However, most things that are good for you have an uncomfortable first order consequence. So for example, working out, fixing problems in your business, spending hours every single day just reflecting on your week and trying to optimize it that way. Those are typically considered goals, okay? So what we want to do is every time you're making a decision, you think not just about the first order, but the second and third order consequences. Another great example I see people doing in their 20s is they start renting a house or they get this crazy cool car or something like that because they're like, oh, I can just put 3% down, or oh, I can have 0% down, or oh, the monthly payment is $3,000 or $2,000 or something like that. But what they're not thinking about is that you have to make that monthly payment every single month when business is good and when business is bad. You got to pay the insurance on top of it. You have to pay any maintenance that goes on top of it. And another really big one that I recently learned when I sold my plane is that you have to factor in depreciation. So when I bought a plane, I wasn't thinking of the second and third order consequences of, okay, when I sell this plane, I have to factor in depreciation. So I lost a little bit when I sold the plane because of the depreciation. I didn't actually think about that when I bought the plane. And so now when I bought my boat, I used ChatGPT and I factored in, okay, what's the average depreciation if I own this boat for 3+ years, blah, blah, blah. And I calculated every single thing in and I gave it the most conservative monthly payment of what it would be if everything went wrong and I could never, use it and there was problems all the time. What would be my monthly payment I had to do on it? And that number, once I was comfortable with that was when I bought the boat. Number 17, I am the designer, not the worker of my life. So in every single one of you, there's two types of people. There is the designer, and this is the person that is the visionary. This is the person that says, this is how I want my life to live by. This is the person that's doing that reflecting. This is the person that's thinking about that second and third order consequences. This is the person that's thinking about the quality of your decisions and how that affects you in the future. This is the person that's trying to prioritize your sleep and what you eat, et cetera, et cetera. This is the designer of your life. They're systemizing your decision-making process, right? But the problem is most people are living on the other part of their life, which is the worker. This is the person that just gets tasks done. They just do whatever needs to get done. They wake up, they go to work, they do things in their personal life, and they're just so busy all the time that they don't take a second to actually live, to actually ask themselves, is this what I want my entire life to look like? And so the more that you can make your life the designer, the more you can get anything you want to out of life. The problem is most people don't spend enough time deciding what do they actually want out of life. So a fun fact is in September of last year, I created something I called my life manifesto. And it was what I wanted my 3-year goal to be. I'm actually, if you see me looking to the left, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm literally reading off of my life manifesto right now. So at the very top, I wrote down, this is, I don't know how many words, I think it's like 5,000 words, but I wrote down every single thing I wanted in my life. I act like I already have it. And it said for January 1st, 2027. And so I write things like, my life is simple and abundant. I frequently identify the things that bring me happiness and ruthlessly cut everything else out. I really am very special. I like who I am and feel good about myself. I prioritize my health and energy. I'm healthy, fit, and full of energy. Let's see. I do not drink or do drugs. I have less than 10% body fats. I frequently get compliments on my jewelry, clothing, and outfits. My home is incredibly inviting and cozy, but high class. It's on the water in a gorgeous walkable neighborhood with a boat slip. I have a 2020 Pardo 38, which is what I bought, my boats. I have a Porsche 911 GTS. I have a Triumph. We hang out and share meals with fantastic people who enrich our lives and enhance our fun. Our conversations are meaningful, positive, uplifting, and educational. So these are all things that I sat down and I wrote out exactly what I wanted my life to look like in 3 years. And I did that in September of last year. And then I read this 2 times a day when I wake up and when I go to bed every single night. And by simply writing it down and reading it every single day, once again, I won't get too woo-woo with you, but I started attracting these things in my life. So much so that in January 1st of 2027 is what I gave myself to achieve all these goals. Remember, I wrote this in September of 2023. It is now October of 2024, and I live about 85 to 90% of my life manifesto already. And, these weren't small goals, but I also was so afraid to set bigger goals because I'd never designed what I wanted my life to look like before. And so now I've designed my entire life and I'm living this dream life that I literally dreamed of it by being the designer. And so now I get way more fun simply deciding, what do I want my life to look like? I spend so much time thinking of that and so little time actually working. It's kind of funny. It's the exact opposite of what everyone else tells you to do. But that's the way that I've been able to live my dream life. That's the way I do live my dream life, is by defining first what I want my dream life to be, not what other people want my dream life to be. Number 18, things are neither good nor bad, but thinking makes them so. So this is actually a Shakespeare quote, I believe, but it's a nice reminder that things aren't good. They're not inherently good. You making $1 million, it's not good, it's not bad. Some people might see it as good, some people might see it as bad. You getting in a divorce, you breaking up with your girlfriend or boyfriend, that's not good, that's not bad. You are prescribing meaning to all of this stuff here. So if you can take a very unemotional approach to something, it makes life way easier. So if you can see everything as an opportunity, everything as something that's good, then your life is never going to have any issues, right? You're not going to have any problems because you're defining this thing as a problem in the first place. And just to show you an extreme example, some of you might have heard this story, but I think 2 years ago, I lost legitimately millions of dollars of after-tax money I lost because I was a part of a crypto, I won't say Ponzi scheme, but it was somewhat of a Ponzi scheme. And it was with this really reputable company, and I had a lot of money on there, and they went bankrupt, they went under, they locked all and froze all the assets, and I won't see them again. So I lost millions of dollars. Now, in the moment, in that first week, that was probably some of the most depressed I've ever been in my entire life. Because you got to think, millions of dollars in after-tax money, multiply that by 50%, and that's how much money you had to make in profit in your business to be able to have millions of dollars in after-tax money. So it had felt like I had wasted years of my life because of this. But then I realized okay, I'm viewing it as a negative thing. I'm viewing it as a bad thing. And so instead I just turned my mind around. I said, you know what? It's a good thing, because better that I do this at the age of, 28 or 29, when I have the ability to recover and make money again. When I'm young, I still have my health on it. And when I can learn from my mistake, and you'll see my final principles on here have to do with my investment strategy. And so now I learned a bunch of mistakes that I did. I learned from that original thing. So now I see it as a good thing. And I know it's insane, right? It's how could you lose millions of dollars and see it as a good thing? Because I'm simply choosing to see it that way. Number 19, I value experiences over things, and more specifically, experiences with people I enjoy being with, can learn from, and who value the same experiences equally or more. That's kind of a really fancy way of pretty much saying that I like to hang out with great people, right? I'd rather spend money with great people, investing into going on trips with them, or them coming to my house, or me going to go see them, whatever else it is, than I would to buy a new watch or new clothes or something like that. But I don't just want to be around people. I'm actually really, as you know, cautious with who I spend my time with. So I only want to do with people that I can learn from, who I enjoy being with, and who value the same experiences equally or more. Meaning, I don't want to go on a trip with someone, which I've done this before, and the whole time they're moaning, they're complaining, oh, this thing thing wasn't right, that thing wasn't right, this trip is blah, blah, blah. I don't ever want to be around that person. That's the terrible person to be around. And so I've identified that one of the times that I'm the happiest is when I'm around other like-minded people. We don't have to talk about business all the time, but it's other people who share the same ideas and thoughts and values that I do, and they're excited to be there as much as I am, maybe even more than I'm excited to be there. Those are the things that I truly value in my life. And so that's why I talked about this earlier. When I bought some of these things, like, I didn't buy my house, I'm renting my house, but when I moved into my house or when I bought my boat, it was because I was like, these things can enable more experiences, right? So I can invite my friends or people that are coming in town that I really respect. I could say, hey, you're in Miami for the week. Why don't I take you out on my boat? We'll spend the day together. And so I bought that for that reason. I didn't buy a boat to show it off on Instagram and to say I bought a boat. I've actually not even made a post about it on my Instagram yet. I bought a boat so that I could then invite people that I care about on the boat and we could spend quality time together. Same thing with my house. We had our first dinner party this last weekend. And so I invited people that I cared about, I wanted to learn from, and that share the same values with me. We had 3 couples, 2 other couples, my girlfriend and I, and we spent a really quality dinner together that my girlfriend cooked for us, right? So the entire dinner probably cost us $200, right? But so it's not like it was incredibly expensive. It was cheaper than us going out for sure, but it was the fact that it was with quality people that made me love it so much. Number 20, I always prioritize demanding activity over passive consumption. This is because it's very easy for you to say, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I want to take the day off, so let me just veg out. Let me lay on the couch, let me watch TV, let me scroll on Instagram, whatever else it is. The problem with that is, if you've noticed, most of the time when you do that, you actually feel more tired than you were previously. So for me, what I try to do is demanding activity. So if I'm feeling tired or exhausted or something like that, I'll go play paddle with my friends. I'll go work out. I'll sit in the sauna. I'll hit the cold plunge. I will try to read something. I'll try to do something stimulating, because I've actually found that when I'm able to do that, it forces me to be in the present moment. And then when I'm in the present moment, I'm happy. And then after that, I'm actually much more able to relax and recharge. I can take a nap after that, I can go to sleep after that, et cetera, et cetera. So I almost try as much as possible to never fall into passive consumption of me just laying on the couch and all of a sudden 6 hours have passed and I haven't done anything, because I know for a fact that I will regret that in the future and it won't make me any more energized. Number 21, speak slowly with intention and practice temperance. Nothing good has ever come from responding with emotion quickly and without thinking. This is something that I have to remind myself very constantly, because if you haven't noticed yet or watched any of my videos, I like to talk very quickly. And what I've learned is that most of the time, the people that I respect the most in this world that I love talking to, they speak very slowly. They speak very intentionally. And if you're watching this video and you've been with me so far, and all of a sudden I just changed up the speed at which I'm talking, you're probably paying closer attention. And so even right now, this is how I'm going to try to finish the rest of this video, but it's very hard for me. So I try as much as possible not to respond very quickly. I try as much as possible not to respond emotionally and to respond without thinking. And so anytime someone says something to me, I actually take a few seconds before I respond back to them. Number 22, how I do one thing is how I do everything. This is something that my girlfriend and I say to each other almost every single day, but it's a law that I hold true. The way that you make your bed affects the way that you run your business. The clothes that you wear every single day affects the way that the world perceives you. How you literally do every single thing, it matters. And most people think, well, no one's going to see this, or no one's going to care about this, or I'm the only person that's going to ever know that this happened. But you don't understand that that is simply a standard that you're setting for yourself. So if you are out of shape, if you eat unhealthy and you look bad, then if I were to try to do work with you, I would say, well, this person obviously doesn't care that much, because if they cared, they'd have a higher standard. And if they had a higher standard, they wouldn't let themselves look or be that way. And some of you might find that terrible or mean, but I'm just telling you that that's almost always the case. And that's why, just as a total side note, I literally laugh out loud when I see some of the people who are in charge of our health system in the United States and how unbelievably obese these people are, how unbelievably unhealthy these people are. How could you put somebody in charge of the diet or nutrition in the United States that is legitimately 100 to 200 pounds overweight? What makes that person qualified, right? So I understand that everything matters. Everything you do matters, and how the world perceives you will be based on everything that you do. Number 23, making money is easy, don't make it hard. This is in here because I learned after working like 80, 90-hour work weeks that I was making as much money as when I worked like 10 to 20-hour work weeks. And because I was so conditioned around work, 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 grind, 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 I was literally creating work for me that didn't actually impact the bottom line whatsoever. And I learned that you can make money incredibly easy. Money is abundant. It flows to you from multiple sources. There's an unlimited amount of money out there. And so instead of choosing the hardest way to make money, why not choose an easy way to make money? And another really example of this, I see people that I know, friends, whatever else it is, making an unbelievably like gobs and gobs and gobs of money, and they barely even work. And so I have to ask myself, I'm forced to reflect and say, if they're barely working and they're making all this money and I was working really hard and I'm only making this amount of money, then obviously working hard doesn't equal making more money. And so that's why I remind myself that making money is easy. Don't try to make it hard on yourself. Number 24, we are unbelievably tiny and short-lived. Don't sweat the small stuff. We are one of 7 billion in our population, which occupies 1/3000th of humanity's existence. We are one of 10 million different species. Earth is one of 100 billion planets in the galaxy, with 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. AKA, it doesn't matter. Chill out. It's fine. It's okay. Everything that you're stressed and worried about right now, it's literally such a small thing on the grand scheme of not just your life, but the entire universe, that it is actually funny. It's hilarious now when I think about how worked up I used to get over all these little trivial things when no one's going to give a you-know-what in 10 years, in 5 years, in maybe even 2 weeks. No one's going to remember the things that you're worried about today. And so I always remind myself that we're on this planet for such a short amount of time, and we are so much less important than what we think we are, that I shouldn't sweat so much of all the small stuff. Number 25, my anger or sadness typically stems from an assumption that I have no options, or an assumption that I don't know the right option to pick. This is on here because whenever I found myself angry at somebody else or angry at a situation, it's because I think that, oh, there's no way I can get what I want out of this outcome. There's no way that I can get the things that I wanted to get out of this outcome to happen. But once again, first of all, things are neither good nor bad. Thinking makes them so. So you can just decide, actually, this is a good outcome. Second of all, what I've learned here is that there's always more options. You can always turn any problem into an opportunity. And so if I'm sad about something or if I'm angry about something, I need to realize that I'm just making an assumption that there are no options or I don't know the right option to pick, when in reality, all of them can be great if I choose to make it so. Number 26, you cannot be both present and unhappy at the same time. You may be in an unhappy situation, but you are not unhappy. It's just a situation to be dealt with. This is from the book, The Power of Now. And I was trying to reflect and figure out, why is it when I'm riding my motorcycle, why is it when I'm flying my plane, am I so stress-free? Am I so happy? And I realize it's because doing those things forces me to be in the present moment, right? Same thing when I play like sports with my friends. Why am I so happy? Why is it so relaxing for me? It's because I am forced to be right here. I can't even think about it. I don't have time to think about the problems of next week or these things going on, these things there. It's because I'm forced to be here and right now. And so, if I don't want to spend my whole life flying planes and riding motorcycles, I need to learn to be present even when I'm not doing these insane, crazy stunts or activities. And so now I just try to practice being present every single day. I try to practice whenever I feel my mind wandering, I try to bring it back into the present moment. Another great way that I do that is through meditation. That forces me to be present and kind of throw out those thoughts that are trying to attack me on a day-to-day basis. Number 27, don't be a part of other people's agendas. Create and follow your own. I remember this happened one time when my friend invited me to go out on his boat in Miami, and I didn't want to go. I had work to do, and I didn't really want to go on this boat for like multiple different reasons, but like I felt bad, and I was like, oh, well, can we change the time here? He's like, no, I can only do this time. And it's not my friend's fault whatsoever. This is totally my fault. But because I was like trying to appease his agenda, I went on that boat, and then I didn't even enjoy the boat, and I didn't enjoy after the boat because I was so stressed out about all this other stuff going on. And so I realized, like, okay, the only way that I can make sure that I am designing this life that I want is I create my own agenda. So I don't want to be a part of somebody else's agenda. I want to create my own agenda. Now, the best part is that when you create your agenda and it can match up with other people's agendas, that's amazing. But I'll no longer subvert my agenda for somebody else's agenda because I know that almost always leads to me being unhappy. Number 28, say no as often as possible to both myself and to others. This kind of goes along with 27, but don't be afraid to say no if you want to. Don't be afraid. Someone invites you to their wedding, someone invites you to, some kind of party, someone invites you to a dinner, someone hits you up, oh, let's go get coffee, let's go do this thing here. I used to feel so bad. Like even with my clients, like I have clients come into town sometimes, they hit me up and like, oh, let's grab dinner, let's do this. And sometimes I do hang out with them, but I almost felt like I was obligated to go spend time with that person. But then I realized I'm not obligated to do anything for anybody. It's not in our contract that I have to go to dinner with this person. And so I'm not gonna be afraid to say no to somebody if I want to. If I don't want to do something, just say no to it. Same thing to myself, right? I'm okay to say no to myself. I'm like, oh man, it's Saturday. I'd really like to have ice cream. I'd really like to do this thing over here. I can say no to myself as well. Even if it's the thing I feel that I want, I can give myself permission to say no. Number 29, our comfortability is literally killing us on a cellular level. Stay away from too much convenience and cheap dopamine. The longer the wait for the payoff, such as building a business, working out, flying my plane, the stronger the endorphin high and the longer we will live. This is why I don't drink alcohol, do drugs, eat refined sugar, or watch TV or social media. So there's a lot of studies and science that shows out there, but the way that we live right now, or the way that most people live right now, is legitimately killing you every single day, because you need uncomfortability in order for your cells to adapt and grow. If you live this life of, you look at some of these like Saudi princes, royal family, people that have money that is handed down to them, you wonder how could they mess it up? How could they kill themselves so early through drugs or be so lethargic, whatever else it is? It's because it is that same access to comfortability that is their actual demise. The thing that you think you want so much of, it's actually the thing that likely will kill you very early on. And so try to prioritize whenever possible the things that delay a longer payoff, like building a business, becoming really great at a specific skill, working out, for me, flying my plane, et cetera, et cetera. Number 30, don't let your need to be right be more important than your need to find out what's true. This is a reminder for me because when I was younger, I was the person who always wanted to prove other people wrong. And even when I knew I was wrong after the facts were presented to me, I would be very stubborn. I would be very, oh, well, like that doesn't count because of these reasons here, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I would never admit that I was wrong. And now I actually start a conversation or an argument with the assumption that I'm wrong. I started saying like, I could be wrong about this because I've learned that is a way better way and I save face way more. I cannot tell you in my business how many times I came to an employee, a contractor, somebody, and I was like, why is this not done? Why haven't you done this? And they're like, I sent this long message and they're like, dude, I did this yesterday or 2 days ago, 3 days, or you told me not to do this a week ago on this Asana message here. And I just look like an idiot, right? And so I now never assume that I'm right. And I now always just seek for the truth. So if they say, oh, I've already told you this, instead of me being like, no, you didn't, I say, okay, show me where you told me this. And then they show it to me and I go, great. This was my mistake. I'm sorry. So I try as much as possible not to look at what's right or wrong, but simply look at what's true or not true. Number 31, there is an incredible compound effect from working with the same people over and over again. I'm really fortunate in my business to have team members that have been with me for 3 or 4 years, since almost the start of my business. And when you work with somebody like that, it's like having in a relationship, like a partner. When you're working with someone like that, you've greased the wheels. Things go so much smoother that way. You don't have to question their motives. You don't have to question and make sure they know what they're doing. You don't have to wonder, have they checked the SOP on this thing? You don't have to question their decision-making framework. You already know, right? And so for better or for worse, you know what you're going to get from that. And so there's a huge compound effect. If you have someone really great inside your business, do everything you can to keep them inside your business, because having to start with new employees over and over again, like every 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, something like that, that turnover, that can kill your business faster than almost anything else will. Number 32, be wary of your associations. This is one way the world judges you. If someone shows you who they are, believe them. This is on here because I realized that if I were to go to an event or I was on somebody's podcast and someone took a photo of me with them, if that person ever ended up doing something bad later on and I was shown in a photo with that person, now all of a sudden I could be associated with doing something bad. And so that's why you see like really successful people, they're very insulated. They don't let a lot of people in their inner circle. And that's for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is because the world will judge you with who you surround yourself with. So if I was surrounded by a bunch of terrible people, you're probably going to assume that I'm a terrible person. If I'm surrounded by a bunch of great people, you're going to assume that I'm probably a great person. And if somebody shows you who they are, if your mom, your sister, your dad, your uncle, your brother, a client, an employee, a friend, if they do something and you're like, wow, I did not know that person was like that. And then you think, oh, that's just that one time. They were just stressed. They were just this. You're kidding yourself. You need to believe that that is exactly who that person is and treat it accordingly, because they have showed you who they really are. And so once someone shows you who they are, don't justify it. Know that's who they are, and then decide if you want to keep that person in your life or not. Number 33, if it's not going to grow on its own, it's not worth doing. Going back to what I talked about earlier about the compound effects and making money the easy way, not the hard way. If you're going to spend all this time doing something, you might as well do something that can grow on its own. So examples of things growing on their own would be like my YouTube channel. So that's one of the reasons why we're very bullish on YouTube. I have videos that I created 3 years ago that are still growing my channel today. Another example would be recurring revenue. I have a membership site called Scaling School that makes me a considerable amount of money every single month, and new people come in and I don't have to do any work on it. Another thing would be referrals from current clients. We focus so much on making our client success experience so amazing that we have clients come in, they love us, they refer more clients, then they come in, they refer more clients. And so all these are ways that I don't have to continuously push this rock up the hill. I can do that initial work, and then it can slowly grow on its own. And those are the things that you want to prioritize doing in your life. Number 34, create a culture in which it's okay to make mistakes and unacceptable not to learn from them. People are always either focused on never making any mistakes. They're so perfect and they create this environment that nobody wants to live in or admit their mistakes, so people lie. Or they create a culture where, oh, mistakes are fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know you said that you were going to do this again and you didn't do it, blah, 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 but it's okay. We're a culture of acceptance and blah, blah. No. You want to create a culture where it is okay to make mistakes. That's fine, okay? People make mistakes. That's the only way you can learn and grow. But if that person makes the same mistake over and over and over and over again, and you've given them the proper training and feedback that shows that you shouldn't be doing it, then that is the person you should fire. That is the culture you should create, where you should say, I've given you so many opportunities here. It's clear that you either don't understand this is a mistake or you don't care. And so at this point, we're going to have to let you go. And that's what I really pride myself at our company, is that I allow people to mess up. But if they mess up 3, 4, 5 times in a row after we've already told them, that person's got to go. 35, success is getting there. Excellence is staying there. I read this in the book. I think it's The Road Less Stupid. But it's a great quote, because everyone says, oh, you're successful, oh, you're successful, oh, you're successful. But typically success, you can do a short burst of success. You could do 1 to 3 years of your life. You could be very successful. You could accumulate wealth. You could accumulate material objects, even great relationships, great family, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't maintain that level of standard for yourself, when nobody's watching, when after you've won all the accolades, after you've gone on stage, after you've been commended, then you're going to lose it all. And so that's why success is getting to that point, but excellence is staying at that point consistently over time. Number 36, technology should be enabling us to do less and less work and have higher and higher returns, aka leverage. If you're in business, I don't care if you're working for somebody else or you run your own company. I don't care if you're a brick and mortar or you're a tech SaaS startup. You need to figure out how you should be leveraging technology to your benefit. Most people are consumed by technology, but the smartest people out there, they figure out how they can leverage technology to grow their business without a lot of overhead. So a great example is this. I talked about this on my Instagram recently, but a lot of people don't know their revenue per employee. This is a metric that people use to essentially measure the efficiency of a company. So if you have 10 employees, you make $1 million a year, then you have $100,000 revenue per employee. What should be happening is every year you should be having a higher and higher revenue per employee, because every year more and more technology like AI is coming out that's replacing employees, or it's allowing employees to do multiple jobs at once because the technology is doing a lot of the work for them. So you should be aiming for a revenue per employee of 200,000, 400,000, 800,000. That number should be increasing over time. And if it's decreasing over time, then you're going against the trend and you very likely will find yourself out of business. Number 37, always take into account someone's believability and their ability to articulate. This is important because, kind of like what I talked about earlier, if somebody shows who they are, believe them. In our company, our leadership team, we create what I call a change log. And it's any decision that we make as an organization or as a team leader proposes to us, I write it in this change log with the date and the person that made that decision and the reason we made that decision. And what happens is, over time, we can see if this person made the right decision or wrong decision. And so when I talked about earlier, creating that culture where you allow mistakes, but you don't want them to happen over and over again, if you consistently have somebody proposing ideas and telling them, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, and then you do it and it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to fire them right away, but you need to take into account their believability in the future. So let's say, for example, your media guy says, you need to be on TikTok, you need to be on TikTok, you need to be on TikTok. You get on TikTok, nothing happens. You need to be on Snapchat, you get on you need to be on Club Group, you need to be on Club Group, you get on, nothing happens, right? And so they've told you 3 different times, you do this thing, you do it, you never see an increase in sales. Well, now the next person comes on and says, you need to be on insert new trend right here. You're going to take into account their believability as to whether you're going to take their advice or not. And the second part of this, their ability to articulate, is so important when it comes to business. We just had our quarterly meeting about a week ago, and we've gotten so good at these now where my leadership team only comes to me with a Google document with an unbelievable amount of data that they have cleared up through ChatGPT and present to me the decisions they want to make or the reflections of why they hit or didn't hit their previous quarter's goals. That it makes the meeting so simple and so easy. So if somebody can say, hey, Ravi, here's why we didn't hit the marketing goal. It was because these things here that caused to this, that led to this, and this is what we're going to fix next quarter. And here's the data that I have to back this up. Then we're done. Okay, cool. There's no emotion involved in this. Great, good to go. But what most people do is they go, oh, we didn't hit it because, and they just ramble for 45 minutes on something they could have said 3 minutes if they did a little bit of preparation beforehand. Number 38, don't hold opinions on things I know little about. This became a way for me to almost forgive myself or give me permission not to keep up with all of these things going on in the world. So I like to think I live a very simple life, and I kind of protect myself. I insulate myself from a lot of what goes on outside of the world. For example, I didn't even know there was a hurricane coming until just like a day or two ago. And so sometimes people are shocked and they're almost upset. But when I go in a conversation and someone's like, what do you think about this election and this political figure here and that there? I literally never say anything. I legitimately never say. And then when people ask my opinion, I say, unfortunately, I don't know enough about this to talk about it because I just don't care. And what will happen more often than not is if I try to say something because I'm afraid of looking dumb, I'll sound like an idiot because I have no idea what's going on. And so now I am totally comfortable with the fact that, for example, right now, I know nothing about sports, 0% about sports. I have no idea anything of what's going on in anything in the sport world. Politics, I have absolutely no idea. The weather, the local news, none of this stuff I even know about. Government ordinances, don't even care about whatsoever. And so I'm not going to hold an opinion on these things if I know so little about it. And that's totally fine for me because the things that I do know a lot about, I do know a lot about it. And I'm not afraid to hold an opinion about those things and be strong-headed about that opinion. It's okay for me to be wrong, and I'm totally fine admitting that, but I will have an opinion about it. But that's because I've simplified my life and my energy towards the things that I really do care about, and those I'll defend, and the things that I could care less about, I won't even talk about. Number 39, it's important to wake up every day at 100% and already know what my most important tasks are for the day. What I've learned is that once you get to a level where you've done all these other principles and you've optimized and you've systemized, you've delegated, you're going to have a lot of free time on your hand. And so sometimes you can use that free time for good or you can use it for bad. And what I found myself doing was I was using my free time for bad. And so I would optimize my time to where I'm only doing the highest leverage activities in my business, like making these YouTube videos or working on the strategy of my business, working on the product, et cetera, et cetera. But because I was only working, let's say 3 to 4 hours a day, and all that other time, if I was eating junk food or watching TV or staying up late, then the next day in the morning when I needed all of that really great energy to do those really hard things that I need to be doing for those 3 to 4 hours, I wouldn't have the energy to do it. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't be at 100% because of the decisions I made the day before. And so you almost think, oh, well, if I delegate all my life out and I systemize all my life out, I have all this freedom. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. But that's true to a point. But the truth is that when you do that, you're likely only going to be doing really difficult, deep work things. And you can't do really difficult, deep work things when you feel like crap, when you have no energy. And so that's why typically when you feel bad or you don't feel like working, most people will just sit at their desk and check off Asana tasks and go through their inbox and message back on Slack because those are very low energy requirement tasks and you feel productive. But what happens when you delegate all that stuff out, when you have a director of operations, when you have an executive assistant, when you have nothing to do but the deep work? Well, then if you don't set yourself up for the deep work correctly, then you're not only failing you, you're failing the rest of the people in your company that are relying on you. All right, so the last 3 are going to be about investing and some of my money principles. Number 40, remove the principal as quickly as possible and only play with house money. If you don't know what principal is, it's essentially whenever you invest into something, that's the initial amount that you invested in. And I learned this lesson back in 2019 or 2020. I was doing a lot of leverage trading, which is when you like trade above the amount of money that you actually have with cryptocurrency. I know, very dumb decisions, but I was making a lot of money. At one point, I had an account with over $1 million in it, or right shy of $1 million. I think it was like 900,000, something like that. And in one day, ironically enough, it was on my birthday in April, and I think it was either 2019 or 2020, I forget. I was at a house with my friends skiing in Breckenridge, and because I was so over leveraged, I lost all of my money in one day, the entire account. And so that hit me obviously kind of hard. And I realized, you know what I should have done is I should have made all this profit, taken out my principal amount that I had originally put in there. That way, if I lost everything, at least I didn't lose that initial, whatever I invested in there, 250,000 or 300,000, something like that. At least I didn't lose that amount of money, because when you lose all of your gains and the principal, then you have to make 2 times that money back in order to even just get back to where you were before. So now anytime I make investments, if it's ever possible, I try to pull out my principal and then just leave the gains inside of there, and then I can play with that money because it's free money at that point. Number 41, always structure deals so that I get my money back first and I know exactly how I'm getting my money back. Now, this was actually something that I got from Alex Ramosi when I listened to one of his videos on money. And I had just started my portfolio company and I was starting to sign my first equity deals. And I'm really grateful for him for talking about this, because I structured my first portfolio deals so that I was, if I had to loan the company money or there was distributions or whatever else it was, I was always the first person to get my money back. And so by going into those deals that way, I was able to recoup my investment very quickly and thus give me my principal back, and then make all this additional money on top of it without having to worry about the business going under and me losing my entire investment there. Also, the other part of this is knowing exactly how I'm getting my money back. So there was specific payment schedules and times and dates of when I was going to get paid. And for some people, they had to give personal guarantees that I'd get my money back, because some of these businesses were a little bit risky and I didn't want to do it unless I was guaranteed to get my money back. And I know some of you might be like, oh, I would never do that with my business, but that's because you have no leverage. I have leverage. These people wanted me to work with them. And so I was really grateful for that, because when the time came, we made a lot of money in the business, but I also knew exactly when and how much I was going to get my money back. And that way, it became a way smarter investment than me just handshaking deal with somebody like, yeah, this business is going to explode. Let's crush it together. And then I have no idea what or when I'm going to get all my money back. Number 42, and this is the lesson that I learned from all that money I lost, those millions of dollars I lost in cryptocurrency in that Ponzi scheme. Diversify in asset classes and the people/companies who you work with inside of those asset classes. So the mistake I had made at the time was that I was very bullish on cryptocurrency. So I had a lot of my net worth tied up in cryptocurrency. In addition to that, because I'm a simple guy, I wanted to consolidate a lot of my portfolio. So I put it all inside one online exchange. And then of course, what happened? I lost a lot of that money, because I was like, oh, this is the simplest option, because I try to make life as simple as possible. Little did I know is that if I had sprinkled out that allocation across multiple different, let's say online ledgers, or in multiple different asset classes like crypto and real estate and stocks and bonds, I would have had a way smaller amount lost of my total net worth. And so now I actually have a specific number cap of how much money I can invest with any one given person or individual. And then I have a specific percentage cap of how much any one asset class, like crypto or real estate or stocks, can be in my overall portfolio. If you're watching this and you are a business owner and you want my help in scaling your business, make sure you go down below and book a call to speak with myself or my team.